Hello, this is Scott Carpenter again, and here for another installment of the Sasquatch Awareness Project. Tonight we're going to talk about something that many see as extremely controversial, and this is where a lot of people kind of part ways. And it is basically, I'm going to talk about the paranormal or the supernatural abilities of the Sasquatch. And you know, if you've had an encounter, usually I'd say 90 to 95% of first encounters especially there's nothing supernatural, there's nothing abnormal most of the time. It's you know, the encounters, you see one and you know, it goes away, or you run off, or you spot one crossing the road, or you know, you have one show up in your backyard and leave prints, you know, those sort of things. You have one step out in front of you in the trail. Some, of course, you know, that you have one yell or scream at you, or you hear the tree knocks, or those sort of things. But for those who have more long-term interaction with the Sasquatch, things usually go to what would be called you know, the paranormal and or supernatural, and some of those abilities will be manifest when the Sasquatch interacts with you. Now, sometimes on the first time there are some people who experience them cloaking or disappearing. In other words, I saw him, you know, run across the road, watched him, he run up on the woods, or he was running across the field, and he just disappeared. And a lot of people say that. They won't say he like ducked behind a tree or he ran through the woods so I couldn't see him anymore. Many times you'll hear, you know, he ran into the woods and he disappeared, or he ran across the field and he disappeared. And I have had one person, first time sighting, saw one basically walking through the woods with the bottom half invisible and only the top half visible. So it does happen. So I wanted to talk about these abilities of the Sasquatch, and I, you know, these two definitions of the words I use, supernatural, which according to the dictionary says is a manifestation or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature. So that's supernatural. And then paranormal are denoting events or phenomenon such as telekinesis or clairvoyance that are beyond the scope of normal scientific understanding. Again, here we have an ability or a action, some sort of manifestation, as it says here, or an ability that is beyond the scientific understanding. Now that doesn't mean it's woo or magic. That just means that we don't understand it or how they do it. And I personally think that these abilities come from their genetics. They're inherited because they're a hybrid being from an offspring of a fallen angel and a human female, a human woman. And of course, this is multi-generational. So the Sasquatch, that didn't happen yesterday, but over a few thousand years of I guess of lineage, but it's always been the human female and the angel DNA, which gives them, as a hybrid being, some abilities that we don't have, and they have knowledge. I know they have knowledge we don't have, and they have an understanding of the ether and electromagnetic forces and things that we don't. I think some understand them, but it's not mainstreamed or mainlined because of political or other world things and all the other political stuff you could get into. But just needless to say, they can access and tap into natural forces that we can't, or we just don't have the knowledge. So with that, I wanted to kind of go through some of the things that some of these I have actually experienced, and then others have been reported to me through friends that I know, and that unfortunately, if you encounter them, you may have these experiences, and so you need to be aware of what the Sasquatch is capable of, and be able to recognize if it's happening. So first thing I want to talk about is infrasound. I've experienced it on multiple occasions. Unfortunately, it's a low frequency sound. It's a sound lower than you can hear. Real world examples of that would be elephants use it. Tigers can use it to stun their prey. Whales and other aquatic animals use it. United States Navy uses it to communicate for great distances, because it'll travel through water and through the magma, so it can and be picked up thousands of miles away. So it is and there are different frequencies, and there's been I've read studies, and in my other books I wrote extensively on infrasound and what it can have some serious effects on the human body. And if they tune in the resonant frequency of your body or your organs, it can have catastrophic effects, including death. It just literally vibrates you until you explode, and it can cause all kinds of other problems and issues. Those people who work around jet engines have to be wary of it, because while there's those high pitched and other sounds, while they're engineering these things, there is also infrasound being produced, and it can be detrimental if you're exposed to it for a long time. And some of the things that you can experience, or it can cause, are memory loss, confusion. It can cause nausea. You can have the fight or flight response. You can hallucinate. It can cause hallucinations at the right frequencies, and it can even cause unconsciousness or even death, like I said before, if the frequency is the correct frequency. Now, how do they produce it? I don't know. I mean, they have huge lung capacity. They have a very long esophagus, which, if you've studied how they produce infrasound, lots of times they use a corrugated pipe. It kind of looks like a windpipe, and then at the end of it, they put a some like a speaker, like a woofer, and and then they modulate that, and based on the speed and the length of the pipe. I mean, they can produce the different frequencies, much like I think probably the Sasquatch do something similar through their windpipe and their lung capacity and everything else. But they know how to do it, and they know, or they learn what frequencies do what to human beings. So one of my cases, in one of my cases, I was actually hit with infrasound to the point where I had missing time. I forgot what I was doing, and I literally just walked away from the area. So, as I was saying, in one instance there, it just kind of caused me to lose my focus and to forget what I was doing, and I literally just wandered off. And if I hadn't had the camera going, I would have not known this had happened. And I actually started mumbling something when I got hit that was incoherent. And then what I recall of the incident is seeing what I thought was something dark and large, almost intertwined in this large pine tree. And in my mind, I thought, I'm going to step in there and see what's going on. And as I purposed to do that, that's when I got hit. And the next thing I remember is I'm a quarter of a mile away walking up the trail. And so, if it wasn't for the video and watching that brought my memory back, I don't know if I'd ever remembered it. So that's the sort of thing, and so just recognizing they can do that. I really don't know of a defense. I'm sure there's some technology that you could do that could ward that off, but I'm not aware of it unless, a tinfoil hat, I guess. But that's one of the things. Another thing that they can do is a phenomenon called phenomenon. Can't say the word. Is a thing they do called zapping, and I don't know if it's related or derived from the infrasound or something totally different. I almost feel like it's a little different, and it's usually it happens to, most of the time I hear of it happening, like I was a researcher, been doing it a long time, and other people that are researching, but it has happened to first time people that have a, their first time experience. They're in the area where the Sasquatch want them out, and the normal hooping and hollering doesn't leave, or it doesn't cause them to leave, and then the Sasquatch will zap them. Now, this zapping is it's almost like an electromagnetic shock to the system. That's what it feels like. I was zapped. I was doing an experiment. It's back when I was trying to figure out just how intelligent the Sasquatch were, how aware they were, could they understand English. And so I was with a friend, and I told my friend Greg, I said, I'm going to purposely badmouth the Sasquatch and say negative things out loud in English. And so we were walking down a well-known trail where I've had multiple experiences. And when we got to this area where I've had multiple experiences, I might throw some pictures real quick of all the different things I've captured, but in this little area. And when I got in this area, I got hit. We were walking out. To my right was a stream. Across the stream, a laurel, like grown up area of laurels, and it goes up. We were in a ravine or in a holler, and it went up the hill. It was real thick, and on the left side was more rhododendron, but it was just a small rock wall, and so I was on the outside towards the creek. He was on the inside, and while I was in the middle of saying some not so nice things about the Sasquatch and taunting them, and I won't repeat it, but it was negative things. I got hit. Now, it felt like I reached out and grabbed a electric fence. If anybody's grew up in the country, as a kid, you at the least grabbed an electric fence. If you were like me, you were dumb enough to pee on one. So just because you're an idiot and you got dared to. So with that being said, a lot of people now are questioning my intelligence, or that may have explained some things for some people. So, but So it hit me on the right side. It literally ran up my arm, across my chest, and out my left shoulder. And it hit me so hard, it was like a shock, and it addled me. And I almost went down. I mean, it dazed me, and I almost lost my footing and went down, and I stumbled. Now, my friend Greg, I said, "Did you hear that? Feel that?" I asked him if he felt it, and he said, "No, but I heard an audible whoosh." He said, "Just like a whoosh went by my face." And so, that was a pretty scary experience, but it proved to me that they could understand me, that they knew exactly what was going on, and they knew that I was, bad mouthing them, and they shocked me. And that was one of the many turning points of me saying these are intelligent beings. They have a will, intellect, emotion. They can obviously understand English, and and then they can get angry and and then in anger act out towards us. And the interesting thing is he had a digital voice recorder that he was just like in his pocket. He had it turned on, so it's recording all the time. And at the moment that I get hit, you can hear like an electrical crackle got recorded, and it's just crazy. But it's like it's like it was just a crackle, almost an electrical sound. So this zapping is a real thing, and some of the side effects of it are nausea and vomiting. Thank goodness I didn't have any of that. I did the next morning when I woke up, and I went to purge. First thing in the morning, I did have blood in my urine, but that was just that once and the only time. There was a researcher I was good friends with in California that had been zapped dozens of times, and she contracted cancer. And she was of firm belief that her prolonged exposure to this zapping is what caused her cancer. So there's a warning there. I don't have any proof other than what she said, but I believe that she was telling me the truth and being honest about it. Oh, excuse me there. So another thing that can happen, it kind of falls in the supernatural area, is that a person can get marked. And what I mean is the Sasquatch somehow mark you, and I don't know what the mark is, but it's basically they know that you know. And so when you're quote marked or selected or whatever, they mark you somehow. And it's a metaphysical thing. They know you, however they mark you, they can do it, and that other Sasquatch can tell that you're marked. And when you're marked, you're of a higher interest to the Sasquatch. Whenever you go to a different area, if there's Sasquatch in that area, within 24 to 48 hours, they're going to come find you. It's just going to happen. No matter what part of the country you go to, if you go to an area where the Sasquatch are active, you will be approached, and guarantee you they will do something overt enough that you'll know that they're there. They'll say hello in their own little way. Now, this usually does not happen to those who have first time encounter with the Sasquatch, but it has happened. I have a few people who had just had one encounter, had an experience where they saw a Sasquatch. It lasted 10 seconds, and then, a week later the Sasquatch shows up at their home, or the next time they go out in the woods at a different location, they hear whoops or wood knocks, or experience the infrasound, or experience something like that. Now, it's rare, but it does happen, so I need to warn you. The other thing that comes from this marking is it's a switch that gets turned on, but it also turns on an awareness in the person who's been marked. And it's hard to describe. It's not some, ooh, you're special, you've been marked, No. To me, it's more of a curse than it is, some sort of special badge of honor to wear, because, you just know when they're around. In other words, it's kind of like if they're going to mark you, and it's a two-way street. It opens you up to recognize their presence. And I can only speak for me. I mean, I've talked to other researchers and other people that have had this happen, but they become more aware, and they get the feeling. You just get this feeling, that they're around. Now, for me, I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes it's a pressure, kind of like a pressure feeling. It feels like I feel a little bit of pressure, or it's an odd feeling. It's different. Everybody knows the hair on the back of your neck, you're being watched. And I've gotten that, still get that sometimes. But it's kind of like that, but it's different. It's just different. I'm being watched. But here's the weird thing. I mean, for me, it's directional. I mean, I literally kind of know in the general area where they're at, or where I'm being observed from. And I know that sounds weird, and that's fine. You don't have to believe me. I'm not clairvoyant or have ESP or any of that stuff. I'm just telling you that's the way it is for me. And a couple of times, I've actually felt like I could feel them, and I took the video camera and I started zooming in the area, and I captured, a video of them. And it's happened a couple of times. So, and if I can remember it, I'll throw, especially the one where there's a lookout over where trails intersect, and it's the black one with the sun beating, off the top of its head. You can see its eyes. You can actually see the eyes when I zoom in pretty good. And it's just sitting there watching us. It was a lookout. So that being marked is a two-way street. Invisibility and cloaking, like I said, usually on the first encounter, that doesn't happen, but it can. And the Sasquatch have demonstrated the ability to cloak themselves or become invisible, whatever you want to call it. I've seen it with my own two eyes. Well, let me say this. I've seen some sort of bipedal hominid-shaped creature thing walking through the woods. And it had, it looked like The Predator. Those who've seen that movie, where, you can see through it, but it's distorted, but it was better. It was, in other words, if it would have been standing still, I would have never seen it. And with it moving, there was just enough distortion. You could tell there was this like glass-like distortion, moving, and it did hit some foliage, and the foliage moved out of the way. So it was obvious something was pushing it out of the way. So, and then there's the partial cloaking and everything else. I could speculate a couple theories. One theory is they use infrasound to bend the light. In other words, if there's water vapor in the air, they can tune the water vapor using the infrasound for the vibrations, and they get the right vibration, the resonant frequency of the water, and they literally change the water into prisms, and so it pushes the light around them. There's also their hair. They have very unique hair that has, while they may have a red hair or black hair, every third or fourth hair is a clear bioluminescent type of hair that could be bent in the light. So it could be a combination of those two things, or it could be something else. That's just my 2 cents worth, but it is something they can do and need to be aware of it. And it can happen on the first experience, but usually does not. But you should be aware of it. Another thing is mind speak or telepathy, and usually doesn't happen during the first, like a first time encounter, but it has. Many people have reported, like they've gone camping and they've heard they've heard the creature stomping or the yelling, and they literally hear a audible voice in their heads. You need to leave, get out of here now. Leave. So it's usually short, one word, things. So that can happen. I personally, they've tried mind speaking, and I refuse to open my mind up and let them in. I mean, they've got some stuff through, like, some short things through, but I won't converse. There are some researchers that have conversations with them, and I just don't believe in opening your mind up to anything and to letting something foreign into your head. Because when they try, the weird thing is when I got mind spoke, or they tried to mind speak me, it wasn't like a Sasquatch voice or another voice. It was it was the voice that, if you ever, how you got your own internal voice. So when you talk to yourself, that's what you hear. And we all know what our internal voice sounds like in our head. Well, imagine you're hearing your internal voice talking to you, but that's not you. You're not talking to yourself. That what you're hearing from your internal voice is not you. It's creepy, and I don't like it, and I won't allow it. And I don't recommend you do, but be aware that it definitely can happen, like especially during your first encounter. And like I said, it's usually a leave, get out of here. I don't want you here. You need to leave. You need to go this way, or you need to go out that way. It's usually that impression or that voice telling you to go. Les Stroud of the Survivor Man, when he was here doing his Survivor Man Bigfoot, and he was up here in Smoky Mountains in the location that, in my location, I don't mind, but the location where I researched up here, he had mind speak. And it was a long conversation, and they offered to come to him and actually, let him see them. If he'd wait around, they wanted him to wait for an hour or two. And he just told him in his mind he wasn't ready for it. He just wasn't ready. And it so disturbed him, this incident, that he actually went to psychological counseling to make sure he wasn't crazy. And of course, the counselor said there's nothing wrong with it, you're perfectly fine. So, there was a first time experiencer, having mind speak, right out of the gate. So that's part one. This has already gone long enough. I'm going to come back and do a part two where I talk about dealing with these abilities, some suggestions to how to deal with them and how to handle both, try to prevent them, and then how to kind of cope with some of these. So, because like I said, it's invasive, and especially if you're, the first time you ever had if it's the first and only experience you have with a Sasquatch, and you get the mind speak, or you get zapped, it can add to the horrific part of the experience. Not only have you seen them and you experienced this thing that's outside of anything you've ever seen, and just just blowing your mind and giving you PTSD. Then you have to deal with getting zapped or hitting mind speak, and experiencing this telepathy thing that not supposed to happen. So it further compounds it. So in part two of this, we'll talk about dealing with paranormal and the supernatural, and a few suggestions and things that I found that worked for me. So that's part one. I appreciate y'all watching. I think that's about it. I hope y'all enjoy those little shorts I'm doing. I hate that I have to use the phone to record them. It said you could upload them, and I've been struggling to get them to upload, through the computer where they're clear. But, that way, something a little fun. I can throw in some videos of the Sasquatch and some of the other stuff in between the more serious stuff with the Sasquatch Awareness Project, and so people can kind of see. I mean, I've got 10 years worth of stuff, and I'm still going through stuff, and I want to share, and I want people to be able to see what they look like and what we're dealing with. So it's not only me talking all the time, but you can see some of the things that I've encountered. So with that, everybody just take care, have a good week, and God bless, and I'll talk to you soon.